Let's dig into some of this. Joining us now, two superstars, New York Congressman Claudia Tenney and Florida Congressman Byron Donalds. The two of you. Claudia, I watched you last evening talk about the 25th Amendment. You've been joined in this by a number of your colleagues and eminent lawyers and former prosecutors. Why don't you give us a Claudia Tenney rundown on the 25th Amendment and why you think it's applicable?
Well, first of all, this is so clear. The prosecutor has a binary choice. You either are competent to stand trial, and if you're not, then you have to face a 25th Amendment charge. It's not one or the other. It's one. That's it. There's no middle ground. And so that's the argument I made when I wrote a letter to Merrick Garland last night, asking him if this prosecutor, as you stated, Larry, had reasonable grounds to determine and make the conclusion that you cited from Andy McCarthy, that we could have gone to a jury, but a jury would have found him kindly. They're actually concluding that he was guilty of a crime, knowingly, willfully mishandling and disclosing classified documents. So if he willfully, knowingly did that, but he's guilty, but we don't want to put him in front of a trial, that's a double standard. That is a two-tier justice system. So if he's that incompetent mentally, then he can't be commander-in-chief and the president of the United States, someone who oversees our armed forces in a civilian command as our country is conceived. This is dangerous. He is dangerous now. This is not about an elderly man. This is about a person with cognitive decline who is unable to make critical decisions. And Americans have died for this, whether it's his poor decisions in Afghanistan and these decisions involving what's happening in the Middle East. Last night, his press conference, Larry, was a train wreck. And you almost wonder why they let him go out and do this in the evening and didn't wait and have some time to actually put a script in front of him where he could actually justify this. But I almost wonder if the Democrats are intentionally putting him out there and letting him put him out to dry so that they can come up with another alternative because he's losing to Donald Trump in the swing state polls.
Well, of course, I think it was a gigantic mistake, a huge blunder putting him out there last night. He wasn't ready. But then again, I watched this White House spokesman. He wasn't even a lawyer. I thought they were going to put the White House counsel up. But they watched this other guy today. He didn't get it done either. I mean, Byron, the Her report is so interesting because in many ways it's very, very specific. It's specific about the charges. The willful retention of a classified document, which is illegal. It's also specific about Biden's memory loss. What I found interesting about what the White House spokesman tried to say today is the parts of the Her report, they had to quote page 249 or page 211 of this huge document. The parts they liked, they praised, but the parts they didn't like, they tried to discredit her. Now, you can't have it both ways. There's a lot of what I'll just say indicting evidence in here on all the charges that Claudia just mentioned. So I don't know how you get around this, and I don't see the public ignoring this the way the Bidens. I mean, they're just trying to blow smoke at us and throw mud at it. I don't think it's going to work. What do you think?
Well, look, here's a couple things, Larry. First and foremost, what is clear from the Her report is that Donald Trump should not be on trial for classified documents because the Presidential Records Act actually protects former presidents with the documents they take with them when they leave the White House. It doesn't protect anybody else except former presidents. That's number one. Number two, it also demonstrates the fact that this Justice Department under Joe Biden is picking who they're going to charge based on politics and not about the law. That's two. And number three, which is more clear than anything, is that Kamala Harris needs to lead the cabinet to invoke the 25th Amendment. This is beyond politics. This is about the country now. And it is clear that Joe Biden does not have the mental capabilities to be the commander in chief. The question is, will the members of the cabinet be loyal to Joe Biden or will they be loyal to the United States of America? Because we cannot have a chief executive who can't even remember when he left the vice presidency. That's how damning this report is. And so I completely agree with my colleague from New York, Claudia Tenney. She is correct. This is a call to Kamala Harris to actually do her duty as the vice president and call for the 25th Amendment to be invoked.
Here's, by the way, an interesting clip from Donald Trump as he left office in mid-January 2021 on the 25th Amendment. Take a listen to this.
The 25th Amendment is of zero risk to me, but will come back to haunt Joe Biden and the Biden administration. As the expression goes, be careful what you wish for.
Well, boy, those chickens came home to roost. We've temporarily lost Claudia, but I think we still have Byron here. There he is. Good. Byron.
Listen, Larry, Donald Trump was right again.
I know.
He was right again, Larry. I'll tell you that right now.
I mean, it's really something how apocryphal that is. He said that, I don't know, just before he left office, just before the inauguration of Joe Biden. Byron, is there enough, in your judgment, I mean, people will parse through all this. In her report, is there enough with respect to Mr. Biden's poor memory and all the different anecdotes around it? Because the reason I ask is, the White House tactic here is to discredit all that stuff, right? They brought in former Democratic office holders and said it's gratuitous, it's gratuitous. Well, I don't know if it's gratuitous. It's right there on the printed page. What do you think?
And I totally believe there's enough there to warrant the 25th Amendment being executed, especially when you put that with the press conference that the president did impromptu yesterday. It was a terrible press conference. Our rivals around the globe, Larry, they see this as well. They know how terrible this is. And look, at the end of the day, it is incumbent upon Joe Biden to present himself before the American people and demonstrate his faculties. This is not a political point. This is serious business. We have men and women who are in bases around the globe, specifically in the Middle East. They are in harm's way. And if the commander in chief doesn't even remember when he left the vice presidency, he can't remember the names of world leaders, how is he going to be able to make the tactical decisions at a moment notice that they need for their lives to be protected? That matters more than Republicans. It matters more than Democrats. That is critical to our nation. So he needs to present himself. I'm also say this, Larry, and this is real quick. What did Joe Biden know, or I also will say, what did he forget about what Merrick Garland is doing with the prosecutions of Donald Trump? Because it is clear now, after reading this report, that they have chosen to weaponize the Justice Department against President Trump, while all the while making sure they did everything possible to protect Joe Biden. Because your lack of mental capability does not protect you from prosecution under the Espionage Act.
By the way, there's, yes, of course, but there's some rumors that Biden's going to fire Merrick Garland because Biden didn't like the Her report. So we'll see how that plays out. But that's kind of out there. Claudia, I just want to come back to it. Besides your 25th Amendment point, which is important, I don't want to belittle that. But at the top of my riff, I just want to make this point. The Presidential Records Act stipulates that only presidents have the power and authority to declassify and take documents with them after they leave office and go into private life. There is no debate about that. Now, Biden's trying to blow smoke about we're going to have a commission and rewrite the law, whatever. Senators can't do it, Claudia. Vice presidents can't do it. House members can't do it. You know who else can't do it? Former directors of national economic councils can't do it. Former heads of the CEA, former Treasury Secretary. You know, I was talking to I called them my ladies up on the second floor who protected me. They were telling me when they went through their training and introduction to the White House, probably the most important thing they were told is anything that says top secret or classified must never leave the building, ever. You have a safe in your office, and then if you leave, you take it out of the safe and you put it down in the safes in the Situation Room outside the SCIF. You're not allowed to do that. Claudia, Biden did this on any number of occasions as a senator and as a vice president. And then it turns out in this document, right, he was telling his ghostwriter as early as 2017 that he had these documents. Now, I don't want to get into a hassle about everything he told the ghostwriter, but it just says they talked about the topic. So this business about they found something a year ago and they rushed pell-mell to straighten it out and they went to the DOJ and the FBI and so forth is nonsense. They have known for years, back in 2017, and probably going back to when he was a senator too, Claudia. This bothers me. These are legal points. There's nothing ambiguous about this.
You are exactly right, Larry. And that's what the president did. When you look at the charges against President Trump, it's a couple of years and he was cooperating with Mar-a-Lago, and the Secret Service are all over Mar-a-Lago. I mean, yes. President Biden has been doing this before. And yeah, by the way, remember, I think there was a standard that the Democrats set under Comey. No reasonable prosecutor would bring this case in the case of Hillary Clinton. No reasonable prosecutor could bring the case against President Trump, except that they're using lawfare, or I call it abusive process, or malicious prosecution against Trump as an election interference tool to get him off the ballot in any way, shape, or form they can. That's what's really going on here. But, President Biden has done this for so long. It's decades.
Yes.
He's willfully violated. Again, you cannot emphasize, if they're saying you're not competent to stand trial, how can you be president of the United States? Probably the most important and most difficult job, the most taxing job, where you need to be on top of everything 100% of the time to do a good job at what we face in this world. It is dramatically bad. And my son serves in the Marine Corps right now as a reservist. But this is dangerous. It is dangerous to our country to have someone like this making final decisions. And the generals, whether he means it or not, they have to abide by those decisions. And the guy next to him has the nuclear code. So this is extremely dangerous, which is why I can't emphasize enough. I think the Democrats may actually throw him under the bus, which they should. The cabinet should get together and vote him out under the 25th Amendment. And we take Kamala Harris. At least she can listen to advisors and maybe listen to reason at that point. But another thing, politically, I just think there's just no way we can tolerate this on the world stage with a president at this state.
Yeah. Amen to all that. Thank you both. You're terrific, Claudia Tenney and Byron Donalds. We appreciate it very, very much, as always.